Let's talk about how we can get rid of some pops in your podcast and all those little unwanted noises you have that keep showing up in your podcast. I'll have some tips and tools that you can use coming up next. Hey there, podcaster. My name is Ashan Man, radio broadcaster, podcaster, and podcast producer. And today we are talking all about how to remove pops out of your audio for your podcast, or maybe even some unwanted sounds that you're getting. Maybe like echoes in your podcast. Maybe they could be just little sibilance S sounds that you just don't like in your podcast. So I've got some tips and some tools that you can use for this particular video. Now, before we jump into the video, what I want you to do right now is I want you to go grab a pair of headphones and I want you to plug it into your phone or plug it into your computer so that you can hear the difference in what I will be talking about, because what I am going to be using are plugins for a particular audio editing program, in particular Adobe Audition, and using it with a plugin software called Accusonus ERA-D Bundle. And what these bundles do are basically there's like the post-processing process that you would use whenever you're creating any type of piece of audio. And I'll explain what these plugins do and what they're really used for. But before we jump into the plugins, what I want to share with you as a podcaster, if this is the first time you're jumping onto this podcast, I have a lot of videos that talk about how you can get in front of the microphone, have the best possible sound out of a microphone, because microphone technique is the best thing. Sound treatment on your walls, why that's important. I'll leave those links down in the description below, so if you're interested in watching some of those. But you have to remember that podcasting is a number of things that happen around you. Environments aren't the best all of the time. Sometimes you're having to record outside. Sometimes you record in a recording studio, or sometimes you record out of your closet, because that is the quietest place inside of your house. And it's really going to be up to you and how you want your recording environment to sound when it comes over into the podcast. So just understand that using a tool like what we're going to be talking about today, those are just parts of the process. It's not the complete process. It's parts of the process, and they're meant to aid you and help you repair certain pieces of audio that maybe just don't sound as flattering. One other thing that I should mention and note is that I talk about this in my members area on my website for podcasting, or how to create a podcast. And one thing that you have to understand in podcasting is that the type of podcasting that I'm teaching is like live radio. And when it comes to doing live radio, especially for as many years as I've been doing it, you realize that there's a lot of hardware processing that is going through a microphone in a radio studio that it does not have post-processing like what you're seeing in Adobe Audition. So what you hear in your radio, why the radio has a specific sound on your speakers, is because there's already processing running through it. So it's probably already running through so many different types of processing. I'm not a sound engineer. I have friends at the radio station, obviously, that are sound engineers. They all know this a lot better than I do. But what I do know is that processing runs through the microphones before they hit the airwaves. And you have to remember that there's also equalization that is going on in your car, on your iPhone, on your Android device. So that's why you're getting a specific sound. When you record from a USB microphone into a computer, or maybe into a mixing board into a computer, you're getting a different sound, a different process. It's typically the raw process. You're not getting broadcast quality. So a lot of that, whenever you're creating a podcast, is all fixed inside of something like Adobe Audition, Pro Tools, maybe even Audacity as well. So just understand that that is the difference here. Now, using these types of plugins like Accusonus provides typically is for people who are, I see as using them for voiceovers, or creating some type of audiobook voiceover. That is where the engineering is going to come into play. That's where you're going to get rid of a lot of the sibilance. That's where you're going to get rid of a lot of the sounds, like the noises in the background. But you have to remember, those people are recording in professional studios. What these plugins do is they help repair audio when you're in an environment that doesn't lend itself to having great audio. Just keep that in mind, all right? So let's go ahead and get started now that you have your headphones, and let's talk about repairing some audio that I've gone ahead and I've put onto my Adobe Audition right here. So once you get the Accusonus bundle that is on their website, you have to install the plugins for Adobe Audition. You could do this for Audacity or Pro Tools, but we're using Audition today, and it's pretty simple. They'll give you an activation key and you'll be able to install it onto your computer. Then that's when you want to go ahead and start editing some audio. So what I've done here is I've gone ahead and I've created 4 different pieces of audio that have 4 different situations that had terrible audio, or they had audio that just wasn't really all that salvageable at the time. All right. So let's go ahead and start first with this piece of audio, and we're going to take this all the way back to the very beginning, and let's go ahead and press play. And we're going to decide which plugin we're going to use for this.
How are you?
I'm great. How are you, Jen?
Good. I'm super excited to talk with you.
So here we can hear that there's a noise floor in the background. And if I zoom in on this piece of audio, you can see that there is a noise floor here, and it just runs throughout the entire podcast. It's just running in the podcast. Now, someone's listening to this inside of their headphones, or maybe even their car. They might hear that noise floor, and it might be a little bit of a distraction. So we're going to go ahead and try and fix that. So in this case, what we're going to do is we're going to use the plugin that Accusonus has provided that removes the noise in the background. So what we're going to do is we're going to come to Adobe Audition. We're going to go to Effects. We're going to go to our menu, AU, and you'll find the Accusonus menu of plugins that you can use. And so in this case, we're going to use the noise remover. So let's go ahead and press noise remover. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to disengage the plugin right now, because I want you to hear what the piece of audio sounds like without the plugin and then with the plugin. It's always going to be engaged when you first start it, all right? So in Adobe Audition, what you'll want to do is you'll want to make sure this is toggled on right now. This will repeat the piece of audio that is selected on the screen. If we press play, you could hear it, all right? So let's go ahead and press play. Before we press play, what I want to make note is that once you start making changes to this piece of audio in here, you're going to start making the changes with this particular knob. And what these knobs do is basically Accusonus has already created the algorithm or the preset that you can already do inside of Adobe Audition, but they've done it for you in this particular knob. So you don't have to go in and constantly just be trying to figure out how to get a specific sound or a noise out of your piece of audio. Accusonus does it for you right here, and the noise remover is pretty good. So let's go ahead and hear what this sounds like without the noise remover engaged.
How are you?
I'm great. How are you, Jen?
Good. I'm super.
So that's what it sounds like without the noise remover not engaged. Let's hear what it sounds like with it engaged.
How are you?
I'm great. How are you, Jen?
Good. I'm super excited to talk with you. This is exciting. This is season 1, episode 1. How are you?
I'm great. How are you, Jen?
Good. I'm super excited to talk with you. This is exciting. This is season 1, episode 1. How are you?
I'm great. How are you, Jen?
So you can see it took that noise floor down quite significantly in your podcast. But one thing I think you should understand when you use these types of plugins is that when you adjust the noise or you adjust the processing on these particular plugins, you are compromising some of the audio too. So whatever frequency you're trying to get rid of, you're also getting rid of some of that frequency that is naturally in your voice as well. So just be careful with how much of the processing you're using with these types of plugins, because they will alter the audio and it'll make your audio sound muddy. And if you're using too many of these plugins on top of each other, your audio is just not going to sound the way you want it to sound. So just keep that in mind when you use these type of plugins. Now, for this particular plugin, you can see the different frequency focuses or ranges that they can use, or that can be applied to the piece of audio. Let's go ahead and play with those real quick.
Good. I'm super excited to talk with you. This is exciting. This is season 1, episode 1. How are you?
I'm great. How are you, Jen?
Good. I'm super excited to talk with you. This is exciting. This is season 1, episode 1. How are you?
I'm great. How are you, Jen?
Good. I'm super excited to talk with you. This is exciting. This is season 1, episode 1. How are you?
I'm great. How are you, Jen?
Good. I'm super excited to talk with you. This is
Yes.
exciting. This is season 1, episode.
So you can hear the different frequency focuses. So you'll just want to pick the one that sounds the best to you. Typically, the default one is going to be the best one for you. And so once you have selected that piece of audio that you want to alter, you just go ahead and press apply, and it will change, and you can see the waveform changes just a little bit. Next, let's go to the Plosive Remover, and here we have a piece of audio where it's something that I think you're very familiar with hearing, so let's go ahead and press play.
Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers.
And what the Plosive Remover does is it removes a lot of those pops and those P's, so whenever you're hearing it in your car speaker or your headphones, you hear those really prominent pops inside of your piece of audio. Now, one way that you can get rid of this is by microphone technique. You have to be a certain distance between the microphone to remove the pops naturally, but not all the time are you going to be able to remove the pops naturally. Sometimes they do come over in this case, all right? So we're going to go ahead and do that same process and come over to the effects rack, and we're going to jump into Accusonus, and we're going to take out the plosives right here, and I can apply it to one plosive or I can apply it to multiple plosives. In this case, this is an extreme case. It's an unusual case. But let's go ahead and engage the plugin. We're going to disengage what it does for right now so we can hear what the piece of audio sounds like prior to engaging it. Then once I've played it a couple of times, I'll engage the plugin, and you'll hear the difference in the reduction of the impact of the P.
Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. 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 Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled.
So if that's what you like right there, and it's gotten rid of a lot of the plosives, especially if you're listening in some headphones, you heard that there was this impact in your headphones or your earbuds. It took that impact away. So let's go ahead and apply. And you see that the waveform changes. It changes significantly. So now there's not as many plosives that are inside of there. So let's go ahead and go to the next piece of audio. And this particular piece of audio has some sibilance in it, I believe. So let's go ahead and press play. If you're a podcaster and you're looking to try to turn this into something that is right there, that is. So we want to look at this particular piece of audio right here, that is. We're going to highlight that particular piece of audio, and we're going to jump back into effects, go to Accusonus, De-Esser. Let's disengage it so you can hear what it sounds like, and then I'll re-engage. That is. 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 That. So you can hear there's a little bit of a reduction in the sibilance of that particular word. You can apply it to certain words. This is a tool that I don't think too many podcasters should have to worry about. You may have to worry about it whenever you get a poor audio recording that's from a phone. There's a lot of just terrible S's, or maybe you're trying to restore audio, but I wouldn't worry too much about the De-Esser because the type of programming that you're doing or type of podcasting you're doing is like that of live radio, and there's going to be some sibilance that is going to be inside of your audio that is coming out into your car stereo or your headphone speakers. So just understand that even though there is processing that is running through it, you're just going to get that. So you can reduce the S's inside of this, and once you've done that, you can go ahead and press apply, and you see that it reduces a little bit of that S right there. All right, so let's go ahead and jump into one more piece of audio here. And this last piece of audio, we are going to remove the reverb or the echo because this particular piece of audio was recorded in another room. I have, like I said, tile floors in my house. I have my walls are actually brick. So the complex where I live is a little more of, I live in a historic district. So I have all these buildings are a little bit, they're not built like modern day homes. So what you're going to hear is a lot of echoing in this particular piece of audio. So let's go ahead and press play. So as you can see here, we have my client's brand new podcast that should be submitting here in the next week. I haven't done anything with it yet. So you hear the echo in the background. A problem with this piece of audio is that I wasn't too close to the microphone because I was recording on video, but there is echo, and you hear the echo bouncing off the walls and off the floors and everywhere else. So let's jump on over to our effects. Let's get inside of Accusonus, and we're going to jump into the Reverb Remover, and we're going to disengage here and let's just see what it sounds like. He's just purchased a Libsyn account. And so as you can see here, we have my client's brand new podcast that should be submitting here in the next week. I haven't done anything with it yet. She's just purchased a Libsyn account. And so as you can see here, we have my client's brand new podcast that should be submitting here in the next week. I haven't done anything with it yet. So if you like the way that sounds, you can go ahead and press apply, and you can see that the audio waveforms change a little bit. Just remember, and I'm going to keep reiterating this, use these particular pieces of plugins if you want to get granular. I wouldn't use them in full pieces of podcasts, unless it was like maybe the noise reduction tool when you're in a room where there's a lot of background ambient noise, hissing that is going on. Sometimes you get this when you record phone calls. There's hissing in phone calls. Sometimes that's going to happen, so you can go ahead and use that noise removal tool. That will really help you out significantly. Now, the final tool that I want to talk to you about is the Accusonus ERA-D process plugin. And this particular plugin really is to fine tune and get really granular with the frequencies that come over onto the audio. So when you apply this particular piece of software or the plugin on top of it, there's a lot that you can do with it. I think for a podcaster it might be a little bit overkill, but for the most part, if you wanted to go in and really play with the audio as a podcaster, you can. It's just really going to be up to you. So here we have a piece of audio that I have gone ahead and brought in, and it's actually a full podcast, and we are going to check out the first part of the podcast, and what we're going to do is open up the Accusonus ERA-D plugin here. This is for the Pro plugin. Now, if it's Pro, usually this means that you're really trying to drill down on a particular piece of audio. I don't know if I could really recommend this for full pieces of for a full podcast. Really, I don't think it would work. But if you have parts in the podcast that it might need some work, you can definitely use this particular plugin. All right. So we're just going to pick a place in the podcast right here, and we're just going to press play.
Exactly. He's like so positive.
So you heard right there in the very beginning, actually, she's like, it's great. So let's go ahead and highlight some of that right there, and let's press play.
She was like, we'll figure it out. It's great. But he didn't rush
great.
into.
It's great.
Exactly. He's like so positive.
So you can hear that actually this is being processed right now because the plugin is enabled. If I bypass all of this, we can hear what it sounds like raw.
I know that was stressful. Was like, we'll figure it out. It's great, but he didn't rush
great.
into.
It's great.
Exactly. He's like so positive. I know that was stressful. Exactly. He's like so positive. 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 Exactly.
So you can see that this particular ERA-D plugin already has some processing that is going through it. Now, what it does is actually the bundle, from what I can understand, is that it's choosing different signal paths. So right now, what we have is this cascade path enabled, and what it's doing is combining the denoise and de-reverb to this particular piece of audio, and you can come in and you can make those adjustments as you need. All right. You can also adapt, it looks like, on these pieces of audio. If you really wanted to get in and get really granular, you can come in and look at the different frequency levels, and say we wanted to really adjust the noise level. You can see how it has different frequency levels for different types of sounds that are running through your audio. So let's say we have the noise level in the background we want to alter. We can definitely do that as we listen to it.
He's like so positive. Exactly. 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 He's like so positive.
So say that piece of audio it works for us. If we wanted to increase the output on it, we could do that too.
Exactly. He's like so positive. 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 Exactly. He's like so positive.
So let's go ahead and apply it and just see what the waveform does, and you can see it applies there. So let's see what it sounds like after we've processed.
Oh, but he didn't rush
great.
into.
It's great.
Exactly. He's like so positive. And you know, I know that was.
So this would really be for repairing particular pieces of audio. Just understand that. It's a wonderful tool to have, although I will say this, if you were to try to buy the bundle itself and you're trying to get just simple sounds out of your podcast, I would recommend going with the standard level bundle that they have on their Accusonus website. So again, jump on over to the Accusonus website. I'll leave a link in the description down below if you're interested in checking out these plugins. Just understand that you can do the same things inside of Adobe Audition, but they take an incredibly long time to set up, and I would much rather you spend the more time recording podcasts and fixing the audio with a simple tool like Accusonus. So my final thought on Accusonus plugins for the ERA Bundle Pro and the ERA Bundle Standard that comes with all of those 4 plugins. I would say I would give it probably a B+, A-, just because I don't know that podcasters would really need to use this. There are podcasters that will be very focused on the editing process and want to get rid of background noises. Still, that's a pretty good grade for a set of plugins that can really significantly shorten the editing time whenever you're trying to get podcasts pumped out over time. As far as the price point is concerned, I think that's where I also give it about an A-. The price point is a little expensive. However, if you're getting the bundles, either the standard or the pro, you're getting a discount. I know that with the bundle discount for the pro, you're getting about $186, almost $200 discount. It retails out for $535. So when you would buy it, it actually comes out to about $350. That's for the pro version. I do know that if you go with the standard version, you would be getting it at a bundle discount for about $130, somewhere around there. So it's actually pretty affordable if you get the standard version. If you were to buy these individual plugins themselves, I believe that these plugins range anywhere between $50 to $60 on their website. I'll go ahead and leave a screenshot for you to go ahead and check that out for yourself. But yeah, it would cost you more if you went ahead and used individual plugins themselves. But for the most part, if you need one of those plugins, especially, I would highly recommend the Noise Remover plugin, because that one I think made the most difference. That one and the Plosive Remover were really, really effective for me. As far as the De-Esser, it's not something that I'm really too concerned about in my podcasting. I don't think it's something that is going to be a game changer for me. As far as the Reverb Remover, I might use that every now and again with some of my podcasts, but it's not, again, like a game changer or a remover. That's something that I would have to fix inside of my own room with the sound treatment in the wall to make it sound better. I know that there are podcasters in my area of Phoenix that have put incredible sound treatment in their rooms, and they don't need a tool that is like a reverb remover that Accusonus provides. So overall, though, Accusonus plugins are pretty good. I would recommend them if you're really, really concerned about audio or trying to repair audio. So if you enjoy this video, go ahead and leave it a comment down below and leave it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe. And when you subscribe, go ahead and hit that little bell button, and that will notify you when I drop a video that is like this. It could be a review on a particular plugin, it could be a review on a particular podcast, or I may just give you some tips about podcasting itself. And of course, share this video out with all of your friends who are looking for some information about how to fix unwanted noises in your podcast. And if this is your first time jumping on this video and you're trying to figure out how to get into podcasting and figure out all these little nuances with podcasting, I've got an essential equipment guide that you can go ahead and download that will tell you exactly what you need to do to get in and start podcasting and have high quality podcasts. That link is in the description down below. I'll go ahead and leave it up here on the screen, and of course over here on your right hand side there's going to be a little flyout menu where you can go ahead and download that guide as well. So in the meantime, thank you guys so much for watching this review of the Accusonus plugins for their ERA Bundle Pro and Standard, and I will talk to you soon. See ya.